Okay, so as we wait on Mr. McDay to come back into the room, there's some things I want to talk about while we wait. We got some upcoming videos or upcoming interviews that I've been speaking to some people about, and I'm really excited about it. You know what's crazy is when I say I'm excited, I don't really sound excited. I'm one of those cats who could probably hit 10 mil and still have the same face. That's just the way I am. That's my demeanor. But I still be excited inside. I'm pretty sure people can understand that. Somebody can, right? So I'm excited because there's a young lady that she's introducing herself to the world on her own. She has a company called the Compass Circle. I actually was in touch with her earlier this morning, and she's going to be on this podcast at some point, and we're going to discuss what the Compass Circle is. And just in a nutshell, briefly, what she does is, I think initially she helps women secure government contracts, federal and state and local government contracts. And she has been very successful in doing that. Okay, I see that Mr. McDay has came back to the platform. Can you hear me, man?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. There's a little distortion in the sound, but now I can see you, and it's almost like you got like this. I don't know if it's a glow behind you or if that's your lighting or something. But you know how like on TV when they show like the Christ figure or something like that, and all the lights and the glow behind it, that's what you got behind you now, man. So I don't know what that's saying.
That's what's happening. I mean, the force is with me.
Hey.
I left out and came back in, and I took mine off of my Wi-Fi and put it on 4G because just a minute ago I lost connection. That's what happened the first time. So now I'm not on Wi-Fi. Well, I'm on Wi-Fi, but I'm not on my Wi-Fi. I'm on 4G,
that's why I use my cell phone, because at my home the connection will start acting up just from the Xfinity internet. Mm-hmm. And so I use my cell phone, and it seems to work a lot better.
Okay.
So well, this is what I can tell you. Well, let me tell you. Let me give you some of the topics that I wanted to discuss, and you can tell me what you want to talk about and what you don't want to talk about, or how deep you want to go into it. But these are just some notes that I came up with. One of them was like when I first met you. I met you as a pastor, right? You had your own church. Yeah. Well, okay, a minister, yeah. Now, okay, but you were a minister. Speaking of that, okay, well, let me just tell you the subjects, and then we'll come back and go over whatever you want to talk about, right?
Okay.
The next thing that I had listed is I listed the word philosophy, and the reason for that is because you just have a unique philosophy. Because I talk to you a lot, and you just have a unique outlook on things that I've been telling you for years, and now you can witness. I've been saying we've been needing to record this for years, and that time has finally came. But you have a unique philosophy on a lot of different things, and a lot of times I'll call you and I'll tell you something like, "Man, I just need energy," or something like that, because I know the conversation is going to have a lot of energy in it, right?
Yeah.
The other thing was this concept you came up with the different, and correct me if I say something wrong. But the concept you came up with and you explained to us, or you broke down years ago, it's been at least 15, maybe 20 years ago, about the difference between dark and black. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Because I thought that was interesting, especially it applies definitely to today. Okay. Also, I know, that you have a form of activism in you, I guess I could say. I guess that's a word, because I be making up words, so, bear with me. Like for example, I guess there's some things that you're inspired by or you are passionate about. That's what I'm trying to say. Passionate about, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about all those type of things, right? I have on my notes, that you've been at your job for a long time, right? Because if a person look at you and you say how long you've been on the job, it's going to be hard for them to believe you've been on the job that long because they won't believe you that old, right? So you don't look, like you've been on the job that long. But the thing that I like about that factor is you tell me that you believe that job in particular was basically meant for you because of everything you learned from that job and you've learned outside of that job. And then you put both of them together and you're able to say, talk about these things that I believe that people need to hear, right?
Okay.
The other thing I know you have some real estate investments. You're an entrepreneur outside of the job. You also have some other investments just from the job. You have investment. In other words, what I'm saying is when you leave, whenever you decide to retire, you will already have other things going for you after that fact. So if you want to, dig into that, one of them, like I say, is real estate business. I know you've been speaking about you bought this super expensive machine years ago to start printing out T-shirts. And so you have a T-shirt business that you kind of, maybe not fully active, but you got it set up where it's ready to go, but you got a reason behind it. So I wanted to know if you wanted to talk about the reason behind it outside of, say, it making money. You got a real reason for these shirts, right?
Yeah.
You not too long ago, I hear it, but that's okay. You got into the Airbnb business, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually something that I'm interested in. And matter of fact, just told a real estate agent the other day, we've been looking at townhouses because for some reason I want to do townhouses with Airbnbs. And the last townhouse I bought it for that reason, but then I did not do that. I did not follow my plan, right? And then, I just kind of want to talk about, like some long-term goals, some things that you got planned that maybe I don't even know about. You know what I'm saying? Just some things you're like, okay, well, once I clock out here permanently at my job, this is where I want to see myself going in the future, right? And I know all of that I just said is a lot because each one of those topics is a lot. I know. I've been doing this for a little while, and I know that each topic can be 10, 15 minutes long, depending on how deep you dig into it. So we may not get to everything, but if we don't, then I definitely want you to come back and finish because, like I said, I'm gathering all this information up, and once I send it out to the world, I'm pretty sure there are going to be people reaching out to me that watch this video that want to, talk to you or get connected with you. So when we end this here, I definitely want you to give all the types of contact information that you have that you want to give out. All of the social media, whatever, it's on you, right? And then the last thing I thought would be interesting is just to throw all of that out the window.
I should have rolled out from the road. I should have been writing some of that down.
No. I got it right in front of me, so I can keep. I can just touch on each subject, and then you can say if you want to talk about it or if you want to move to the next one. It's fine with me either way you do it. But the last one is I kind of want your, and this one here is just to throw a monkey wrench in the game right here. I kind of want to know your philosophy on dating in the year 2022, right?
Okay.
Because we're both, I guess you would say, single, kind of, sort of. It's 2022 type world. Okay, so now let's go back and start. We're not gonna start from the beginning, But you know what? I tell you something that I don't know about you. Is your background, your history. Like I said, I met you as a pastor, but I don't know where you went to school. Well, I think I do know you went to Byrd, I think, right? C. Byrd. I know. Well, okay. You went to some school. I ain't gonna say that. You went to a nice school. Let me put it that way. You went. You know what I'm saying? I went to.
You say night school?
Nice, NICE. The reason why I say that is because we used to have weapons on our bus. So I'm pretty sure you didn't go to a school where you had to have weapons. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So as far as you want to go back, just a brief little, introduction to you, because like I said, people are going to be interested.
Yeah, I think where I went to school at, I think all of those points tie together. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak from your platform, and I hope I can contribute something that will be beneficial to the platform as well as the listening audience. Brother Darrell, I go by Brother Darrell, and I also go by Brother Yah. And based on which hat I'm wearing, that determines kind of which voice you'll probably get. Started working with the power company. I was 17 years old, and so as you say, I've been there 40 years. But that has really given me spiritual insight as to, from Darrell working at the power company, gave me a lot of spiritual insight as being Brother Yah in terms of trying to understand what this matrix is about. It's kind of like Mr. Anderson and Neo. Mr. Anderson, if you look at his job, he was an IT person, but he eventually was going to have to go into the machine world, and that background of working with IT kind of helped him, I would say, with the machine world. So working with electricity, which is an invisible force, really helped me understand spirituality a lot better. And one of the things I believe that we all do is, I believe we all are Mr. Andersons. And we all have that particular component of being the one, but trying to find out what that one component is that we're supposed to do. I think I'll say this, they say two of the most important days in our life is the day that we're born and the day that we find out our reason for being born. And so for me, I think my reason for being born was to kind of bring what I would say as a paradigm shift as to how we think. The institution that I used to have, or the platform that I had when you and I met, was called a Paradigm Temple. And I call myself a minister because pastors are people who kind of look over congregation. I didn't ever want that. I wanted to tell people the truth, and I want to be left alone. I didn't want people dependent on me. I just wanted, I wanted to give people the truth. And at first, I was trying to pass the baton out. So I had two brothers that were actually pastors. My father was a pastor, so I kind of came from that line of spirituality in terms of the Bible. And the Bible was the book that we were using. But like I say, when I started seeing the Bible, I started seeing it from a different perspective. I'll say that. I started understanding that the Bible is written allegorically, symbolically, literally, and some of its metaphors. And so I started seeing, at least I started believing that a lot of people were taking a lot of things literal that should have been symbolic. And so I started saying that the Bible was the words of God, but we didn't have the word of God, meaning that those words were not being interpreted properly. And I believe if those words were interpreted properly, they would empower the people. So that's what I was trying to do, is use that book to open up a level of revelation that I believe was not being known. I was talking to a guy today, Robert, I go back to the Bible, being symbolic. Like, man, it's 2022, and you got people who still believe today that in the book of Genesis, that was actually a talking serpent. And I understand it's okay for people to be there, but eventually we have to move beyond that level of understanding to a deeper understanding. I used to use this analogy. My daughter used to draw a certain way. She used to draw stick men and stick women. And when she would draw that way, she would bring it to me and say, now this is my daughter was like 4 or 5 years old. She'd draw stick men and stick women. She'd say, but Daddy, this is you and this is Mama. And she'd draw a stick son and a stick house. And when I would see it, I would, how would I say, kind of praise her. Not really praise her, support her in her drawing like that. Because I understand at that age, it was okay for her to draw that way. So now, and I think what happened, because I understood what age she was, I could then support as well as encourage, that's the word, encourage her. And she would go and draw something else, a stick dog, a stick horse, whatever she would draw. But I understand at that level of her age, it was okay for her to draw like that. But now, this is what I tell you.
Okay. Brother Daryl, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but on your end, you have.
Understood what she was. She may have also thought that's what I was in my consciousness. If I want to. And so I think that's kind of how God is. I think when people clap their hands and do all this, and hey, they see God as really needing that. And because God supports them where they are, they then begin to believe that that's what God is. Because with Abraham, for example, Abraham was cutting up animals. And we when reading the Bible, we see all these people doing all these things and God not condemning them. The same way I didn't condemn my daughter. I understood that's what she was. I supported her and even encouraged her. But once again, I see her growing like that now at age, my daughter's 27, she's growing like that at age 27. I now know that something has stunted her growth. And I think that's where we are kind of even with the Bible, people that throwing up their hands and praising God the way that they've been taught, not knowing that they need to move to the next level of their development and understanding that book, which is the empowerment part. Because, and I'll say this about the Bible. When I'm saying I'm a minister, I don't know the Bible, like some people going and quote scriptures and all of that. I can't do that. With me, I start understanding the objective of the book. Once I start understanding the objective of the book was empower me to be like this person called Jesus and have even greater power. So therefore, once I start understanding that, I didn't feel like I need to be able to quote every scripture, every this, like some people can. So, but once again, the objective for me was to be empowered, and that's what I was also trying to do, extract the language from the book, to break the language out over people so that they could be empowered and do greater work than what Jesus was doing. So that's why I think, and that's why I was calling myself a minister, because my objective was to use those words, because I understand that words can empower you. Because sound, I would say that sound has an effect on matter, and words can empower you. So my objective was to open up a revelation in the word that would empower people and inspire them to do greater work than what Jesus was doing. So that's the reason we had the Paradigm Temple. You know, once again, there was a place to empower the people, to give them a deeper understanding, and at the same time, people who were looking for something deeper, letting them know that you didn't have to throw away the book, because there is a deeper understanding in that book. You know, because just like certain stages of matter, for example, you have what's called in matter, you have what's called the solid stage, the liquid stage, the gas stage, then you got a stage called plasma. And I think most people are stuck at the solid stage of the Bible, not knowing that there are other phases that give a higher form of energy. And I think because we live in something called, I'd say something like the herd mentality. And when you have that herd mentality, then people stay at that level. So I kind of saw myself as a person that's kind of breaking away to at least bring a shifting, or at least an alternative to what was out there. And I said this earlier about the symbolism in the Bible. I was talking to this Hispanic guy today, you know, like when I was talking about this talking snake, and people believe in that's actually talking. And I gave him this example. I asked him what school he went to. He said he went to Bird High School. I said, and I went to Captain Street High School. My mascot was an alligator. His mascot was a yellow jacket, a beast. And I said, now, by us living in this time period where we understand language, if I were to say the yellow jacket beats the gators and just shows you the image, you may actually think that it's an actual alligator. But everybody that went to that school was under the symbol of an alligator at Captain Freed. And everybody that went to Bird was under the symbol of a yellow jacket. So if you saw a person, you say, well, that's a yellow jacket there. Well, that's a gator there. Booker T. Washington was the lion. Green Oaks was the giant. Once you're under that and live in the culture, then you don't have to explain all the language. I think that's what the Bible is when it's talked about this serpent. I think it was a particular icon, if you will, or that a particular group of people who had a particular nature operating under, and they were called the serpentine people. Where it wasn't an actual serpent talking to Eve, but somebody from that particular clan was talking to this lady named Eve. And I think that type of clarity, or that type of at least that different perception, or that different interpretation will at least give people a chance to know that it's okay to step outside of the dogmas that we've been taught about. I don't know, but hopefully that kind of gave a little clarity. I don't know if I'm getting away from your actual question, But you asked me to
No,
say
no,
something
no,
about
no,
it. That's
no,
how.
no, no. Yeah, for me,
But that's how.
you
That's how I
know,
actually got into the ministry.
got you. Can you still hear me?
Say something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you fucked up some, and I heard you say you can't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't worry about it. You know, the editor will deal with whatever issues we have.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's,
I'm just trying to get you into that flow state. Once I get you in that flow state, I know just to sit back and relax and just you know just have the ride, just take the ride with everybody
yeah.
else.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's what I was trying to. That's how I actually got into the ministry part. Just seeing the Bible, and because I am philosophical and trying to, and I'm also scientific because the Paradigm Temple, we call the Paradigm Temple the place where religion and science came together because our approach to the Bible was a scientific approach. Not in, I mean, what I mean by scientific, we were just asking a lot of questions, asking a lot of questions. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people were not asking questions. And like I say, so when we have a slide that says the Bible is written symbolically, literally, and allegorically. And like I said, I think if people just have a higher understanding, understand that there is a higher understanding, that those words could actually empower them. Like I say, so once again, I go back to what the objective of the Bible was. I think you got all these different combinations of scripture. Maybe this combination will make you understand that you should have the power of a Christ being. And if you look at Christ, he was Jesus, Mr. Anderson, who became Neo. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's everybody's journey. I'm Mr. Anderson trying to walk into the destiny of Neo. And I'm saying, I think everybody has, I think when everybody understands that perfect, because when I started looking at the Matrix, Trinity, she was Mr. Anderson, and her Neo was for her to become Trinity. Morpheus,
Mm-hmm.
he was whoever he was on the ship, when he became Neo when he became Morpheus. So each one of us have that Mr. Anderson component and trying to be Neo. You're trying to find what is my purpose? What am I purpose? Like saying, and I think the Bible, for me, the Bible, I begin to see the Bible as a book that can lend itself to making that happen for people if they understood that there was a higher philosophy in the book where we can move from the solid stage to what I would say the plasma state, which is a higher form of understanding of the metaphysics of the Bible.
You've said a bunch of things to me over the years, but one of the things that's just in my mind right now is you said, and I'm paraphrasing, trust me, but you said something to the effect that at a certain point in time, people will either become enlightened or will wake up. You know, one of those words, or it might be a whole nother word, but hopefully you see where I'm going with this. Because the reason why I say that is because when I look at people, one of the revelations that I've came to recently, say within the past maybe 6 months to a year, is I realized that we don't all wake up at the same time. You know, now not saying we won't wake up, like you say, like that one person who like there's one person who may tell the story 1,000 years from now and say Green Oaks literally was a school of giants. You understand? And then there's somebody else who will be able to say that Green Oaks was a school and a giant was the mascot. You know, but that meant that, you know, if they were both around the same time, it's just one woke up before the other one. So if that's the case, do you feel an obligation to like help people wake up or at least shine a light to see if you can, you know, bring about something for them?
Yeah, and I go back to what I said earlier. I think two of the most important things in our life is find out the day that we're born and the reason for being born. Mm-hmm. And when I start understanding information a certain way and start realizing that some people just couldn't get it, and I talk to some people who would, I began to see that this person has a certain wakefulness, but this person it's not time for them to wake up, because at first I thought it was my job to wake up everybody who I came across. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You begin to realize that this person just not gonna wake up, and you know, and you start seeing certain things in life, you start understanding that there's different levels of consciousness to everything. And so when I start finding people that at least had the potential of waking up, I then start trying to at least build an alliance with them to try to help
Mm-hmm.
me to get at least build an alliance so that we could then understand what our gift was. Because I had to understand that that's really a gift for you to be able to see things. Then I started thinking,
Yeah.
well, why would you have the gift if it was not for a particular purpose? And as I started understanding certain things like herd immunity, I started thinking that I got with this person got with this person, because I understand that those ones are not going to wake up unless, how would I say it? I'd have to go into what's called a morphogenetic field. A field is created. And if I believe something and you believe it and somebody else believes it, we create the field then. Once the field is created, then all those ones over there that are asleep, they can wake up, but they cannot wake up until those ones start. There's a unity between those ones that are awake. They are the awakeners of those ones that are asleep. They're waiting on. The Bible said it this way. The Bible said that the whole world was waiting on the manifestation of the sons of God. So when I start seeing that I am awake, I understand what, and I don't mean son of God from a spooky place, understanding that son of God are those ones who are able to hear at a higher level and see at a higher level. Once they come together, they create the field. Those other ones cannot wake up until the field is created. So as that unity is not created amongst those sons of God, they then create the atmosphere for those others to wake up. Otherwise, there will never be an awakening. And it was prophesied that, I'm saying the Bible, once again, a lot of times when people hear the Bible, man, they don't want to have nothing to do with the Bible. Like, man, I don't want to have nothing to do with that book, because they see it from the position of it enslaving people and keeping people on a certain level. And it does do that. And it was supposed to do that. But I think at the point of time, there'll be those who will take the book. It's like having a book upside down when you read it that way. But at the point of time, there will be those who will take the book and bring out a different level of understanding. And as they bring out that different level of understanding, then those ones who were rejecting the book will start saying, okay, yeah, I can get that. I can give that, but they still have a certain level of, this is the white man's book, this is the white man's book. And this is one thing I cared of. Energy is never created nor destroyed. It changes form, if you will. And so the Bible, when most people will start saying like the Bible is nothing more than the book of Osiris and Isis, and I understand that because it is. And before Osiris and Isis, it was under another name. So what it is, when you're born with a certain level of seeing, you will see beyond the surface and understand once again what the objective is. The objective is to empower people with you extracting a particular type of truth out of the book, breaking it out over the people to empower them. Because if you look at what Jesus was really doing, absent of how the dogmas of it. Jesus, for example, when he was walking on water, according to the story, he walked on water. He did not want to keep that power to himself. He wanted this person who was with him to do the same thing. Because his whole thing was to wake people up to their own internal power. But that's not what the church teaches. But once again, I believe the church was to keep the people at a certain level into a fullness of time. Now we're at that phase where people are looking for the empowerment, but they're looking for new teachers to bring that same word, but bring a deeper understanding of the word. Because the thing about truth can cloak itself. You know, truth is like an element, for example. If you give me gold, for example, an element of gold, I think it's got 79, let's say, protons. But inside of gold is carbon, hydrogen, helium. But you got to know how to become an alchemist and then mine out those other elements that's hidden inside. That's what the Bible is. The Bible in the hands of an alchemist. That's all you need is somebody that know how to mine out that eternal that's latent in there. It's in there, but you got to know how to pull this back and pull that back. The same way like I just said with elements. I mean, in the element of gold, the atom of gold, 79 protons, but inside of gold is carbon, hydrogen, helium, lithium, all those other elements. And once again, if you understand the principles of alchemy, you can mine out those things. That's what all religious books, Quran to the Bible, is in there. But if you don't have that alchemist component in you, you'll stay at the surface and not know how to mine out the deeper truths that's hidden in the book.
Let me ask you this. You've spoke to me in the past about vibrations, sound vibrations, vibrations to words. You say you are Brother Daryl or Brother Yah. What does Brother Yah mean?
Brother Yah, it's kind of like Neo, and Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
You know,
Gotcha.
Brother Yah is trying to come into that component of understanding that he is the one to do a particular something. And I think, and I said we all are in that phase of Mr. Anderson, but that Mr. Anderson is always reminding us that we are an IT person or we this person. Neo knew his assignment was, I would say, once he started accepting that he was Neo, he knew he had a specific purpose, you know, but it took him to go, I mean, and that's what they call hero's journey, where he breaks free from the Mr. Anderson, the trappings of Mr. Anderson, and embrace that spiritual component of being Neo the One. And once he found out he was one, his assignment was to automate it, you know. And I think my assignment is to destroy a philosophy which is like a matrix, you know, because there's certain books I've read called, some of the best books I've read, The Biology of Belief, The Meaning of Blackness, and Through the Language Glass. And Biology of Belief talks about how it's kind of like as a man thinking, what you believe becomes a part of your biology, your blood, your chemistry, your nerves. And so once I start realizing that this belief system that we have is a belief system, but if you want to keep people under an envelope or a canopy of perception, you have to make sure that nobody ever challenges the present day belief system. And if everybody kind of acquiesces or conform to the belief system, then you keep the people in the same mindset. So I think I'm born to at least challenge the belief system. And that's why I say, that's why I go in the Bible, because especially with religion, because religion is really philosophy, you know. And as if I challenge the belief system and challenge it and make I guess a pretty good challenge as to the narrative that is here, then it's really like a fight for who's gonna be the gods of the world to come. Because of philosophy, because really when you understand what keeps the world intact, it's philosophy. It's people's belief. You can now supplant or arrest that present belief and establish another belief. Then those people that establish the new belief become the lords of that time period. But you and what's going to help with this is it's time for this change. You know, there's a time for people to stay in darkness. The time people evolve out of that. It's like you, me, and other people that we know will come with a rebellion of just absorbing the old ways, you know, and we'll find ourselves. I think I told you this before. I think we write down everything that we need to do prior to us coming in. I think we wrote this day. I wrote that I would meet Lewis. Lewis wrote that he would meet me. But now it's a matter of like in the Matrix, why did we make
Okay, you frozen again on this end, and you must be in the brother Yah form at the moment, because you dropping it, brother. But that's okay. If you can hear me, just keep going. Okay, if you, I think I heard you ask me if I could hear you. On this end, you're still frozen. But like I said, don't worry about it because it can be edited anyway. That part can just be cut out. But you're definitely going to have to come back once we get our signals and everything, you know, better. Because like I said, I know once you get into a certain flow state, man, people just need to hear this. I've been telling you this for years. Now I see you now.
Okay, yeah, but I go back to what you asked about vibration. Everything is energy, and I go back to this. I think the job that I have working with electricity, actually, like I said, I think it gave me just a unique understanding as to, you know, as to how this whole thing operates. Because one thing, everything is energy, you know, and once again, that working as my physical job, I'm a first responder. I find out why power is not making it to a certain point. You know, so I'm able to take those same principles if I come to a people, which are Black people, because I think that's my assignment, is to at least bring an empowerment to the disenfranchised or people who are powerless, which are Black people. And this is my philosophy. I believe it's responsibility of every race of people to solve their problem. Let me
Mm-hmm.
say that again. I believe it is the responsibility of every race of people to solve their own problem. So when I look at the problem that Black people are beset with, I find that our problem is we just been given wrong information. It's like it's like having a tree, for example. If you have a pine tree, that pine tree's root system is important. But if you take a pine tree and give it an oak tree root system, it still may grow a certain way, but it's not going to get the maximum nutrition that it needs from the soil. And so as I begin to just examine, as to the belief systems, I see that Black people are their nature is light. We'll get into that in
Mm-hmm.
some of the. But to be Black means that your nature is light. And if your nature is light, then you're going to have a inclination for things that pertain to light. That's when Black people really have a proclivity for religion like they do, because our nature is light. And anytime we see something that has a light variable to it, we'll give up everything because our nature is light. And that's when they came to Africa with a light appearing subject called Bible, we gave up everything because once we see it as light, our will incline toward it. And that's one of the things I do is try to point out that our nature is light. And you mentioned this earlier. I try to point out to be Black is to be light. But I think one of the things that this world did, now it's kind of deep, and I may be getting kind of headed with subject like that. It really needs to.
Just keep going.
It really needs its own space. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To talk about Black and white. And what kind of brought me to understand, I read this book by a brother named M. Noor. I'll tell you how. M. Noor, he wrote a book called The Meaning of Black. And M. Noor said in this book, Black and dark were not the same concept. And I heard it, and I kind of just laid back in my bed and I said, Black and dark. And he was saying how a lot of educated people were making Black and I was laying in the bed and I said, what if white was really the dark color and Black was the light color? And my heart started beating fast. It's like I don't know if you ever saw the movie the Who people, and it was a Christmas Carol where the little Who people hollering.
Like Hard and Hear the Who?
Saying, what? Yeah, huh?
Like Hard and Here's a Who?
Was it that? It was a Christmas Carol. These little people called the Who's, and they were trying to get the Grinch to do something, and they were hollering, and then all of a sudden you heard these little Who people. And that's why I kind of saw the ancestors like whispering the whole time, Black is actually light. Black is actually light. And I'm thinking, what if Black is really light and white is dark color? And my heart started beating fast. Because I knew I heard it. And I thought, who can I tell? And I called this lady. I had a friend named Audrey. She's into science. And I called my mother first. I called my mother because I know I want to tell her. So I'm going to tell my mother. I know she probably wouldn't grasp the magnitude. My mother was called a light skin lady. And I'm this color right here. This color. I called my mother. I said, you dark skinned. She said, what? I said, you dark skinned and I'm light skinned. Boy, you crazy, And I started explaining because darkness is the absence of light. And it's because once I found that out, man, it's like in Neo, when the numbers also coming out, he started understanding what this stuff is really about. And I started seeing that dark, the black color of light, and they had been knowing it. So let me explain what dark. Darkness is the absence of light. So this shirt right here, I have a black shirt on. Now, if you start trying to find out what colors make up your shirt, you'll find out the color red, the color orange, the color green, the color blue, the color purple, all are contained in there. These are colors. And they come up with certain concepts so they can then have certain information. When you're looking at blue, for example, blue color, you're looking at blue light that the object can capture. You're looking at green, you're looking at green light that an object is captured. Orange light that an object is captured. So they come up with the term color so that you won't ever start saying that it's light. If you just get the color thing out of it, you'll start saying, okay, this object right here has orange light in it. You say orange color, but orange light. You say green, this object has green light. This object has blue light. So when you're looking at a black object, it has all of the light in it. It has the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and even different shades of black. So dark is the absence of color or the absence of light. And if this color has all the color in it, it cannot be a dark color. It's critical enough.
Got you.
That's what white supremacy hinges on, hangs its hat on, making this a dark color. But here's the thing, now your mind cannot let go of this being a dark color to somebody show you what a dark color is, because nature hates a void. So if you start saying, well, this is not a dark color, then what does a dark color look like? A dark color would be a white color, because darkness is the absence of light, whereas a white object deflects all of the light. And I use this example when I'm trying to explain this. If I had this dark color shirt on, and you had a white people don't wear dark clothes in the summer. Why? Because dark clothes hold heat. Most of us know that. The dark clothes, what the dark color is, it's absorbing the light, so therefore it holds the heat. So once again, when sunlight shines on this particular object right here, it absorbs red light, orange light, green light, blue light, purple light, and that's what makes it what we say holds heat. Once again, dark is the absence of light. So if I ask you, well, which color did this shirt not absorb? You say, well, it absorbs all of it, so it cannot be a dark color, because once again, dark is the absence of light. So now, if I were to get this color right here, and all of the light, when light hits it, it deflects. And so when you start trying to read, when you start trying to Google that, you're not going to be able to Google that. And I say, when I'm saying this, when I say, this really needs its own space, because when you come up with this type of information, they have to rewrite books, because there's no book that's saying this. There's no Google in it. If you were to Google this, you can't Google this. So they have the gravity or the magnitude of what we're talking about now. It would really put us in a position for a Nobel Prize, because we new discovery of science saying this is a dark color. And because once again, white supremacy is based on this being a light color, but then you have to go into the science, because when you see a white light and a white light looks like this, the two look the same, but they're not the same. And if you don't know how to break down that science of that, then if you don't know how to break down the science of that, then you won't understand how they were able to philosophize that a white light and these are the same, because they look the same. And when I'm giving an example, I usually use this example. I usually use the numbers like 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals. Now the symbols on this side do not look like the symbol on that side, but they're equal. So the color black and white light are equal, because in white light you got the color of the rainbow, and in the color black you got the color of the rainbow. So white light and the color black are one and the same mathematically. It's like the square root of 25 is 5. But now, because we never knew how to challenge that, we were able to parade that just cavalier with the object white and white light are one and the same. And that's what makes black people have this real inclination toward white, because because our nature is like about white. If they are light, we're going to have this natural proclivity towards them, which in turn, and by them labeling us as dark, is going to have a level of self-rejection in us, because our nature is light. So we say that you really don't need to go too, I don't really need to go too fast, because sometimes I start talking fast, but if it's being recorded, you kind of go back and look at it and say, okay, let me think of the button, and just kind of hit the pause button. And like I said, because once again, when you're given new information, once again, if you can't Google what I just said, because what it is, they're going to have, if this is the truth, and I can mathematically and scientifically show it is the truth, they're going to have to rewrite the Google search engine, write new books. That's the magnitude of something like this. Because once again, there are no books that say that. Anyway, let me scale it back a little bit, because I get too excited. But
no.
That's a part of my philosophy. That's a part of my philosophy.
Exactly.
And that's the part that I kind of take a lot of, I guess, gladness in, that I was one of the ones that chosen to at least bring this kind of truth, And I say, and so when I got that, man, it opened up so many other doors. I started really understanding why it was necessary for me to work with electricity, because electricity itself, if you look like a lightning bolt, electricity is black. Most people. And the only way I could have known that is I had to work with electricity, and I show this to people. Now, when you see electricity, you see this white spark, but then all of a sudden you see this black powdery stuff like a soot behind, because that's what electricity is. It's carbon But when you speed carbon up, it's gonna become a white light. If you take a charcoal, for example, if you barbecue, most people, if you take a charcoal, it's a black it's a black object. Once it gets white hot, it glows white. That's what white light is. White light is nothing more than a black object that vibrates at a higher frequency and produces a white glow. I think Elijah Muhammad said that we used to glow because that is the potential of us. If you vibrate at a particular frequency by you being black, you're gonna give off a white glow. Now, if white people, but I don't want to go into that. But that's our potential. Our potential, and I think that's what truth does. I think that once we get a particular truth in us, and that truth really gets in our soul, I think we'll just vibrate out of here. And I think that's what it means to kind of go back with Christ, that you're going to become this light being. We have the potential, but I think the particular belief system that we hold in our head now, I think that's what keeps us vibrating at the frequency we are right now. Because I go back to what you said, frequency and vibration. Anytime something, and that's what makes the color black black. That's what makes any color, because color is the byproduct of energy vibrating, or energy that has vibrated. If you look at the color blue, for example, if I could wiggle my finger fast enough like this, it will produce the color blue. If I wiggle it even fast, it'll produce the color purple. If I wiggle it even fast, it's going to produce the color black. So color is the byproduct of energy that is vibrating or has vibrated. So when you look at us as black people, we vibrated at the highest frequency at one time. We're not vibrating at that frequency now. And it's a reason for that, because we laid down our greatness so that other people could shine. And so but we are now at the fullness of the time, that would actually, at the fullness of the time, a truth will come back. And I think that's why I say we wrote certain things that the return of Christ, that's the return of truth. And when that truth is absorbed by certain people, it's going to make them vibrate and become ultraviolet people. Because that's what I say, when you, by me even saying that word right there, it makes me realize that that's something that needs to be talked about. When you look at the color, for example, this is what I'm saying. Going back to the color spectrum, you got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and then after the color purple, they have what's called ultraviolet. I'm sure how they kind of concealing information. And say it again. Lord GB, red color, red light, orange light, yellow light, green light, blue light, purple light. They saw another light after purple light. They saw this black color. And they knew that it was light, but they didn't want to call it light. So the obfuscate or the high truth, they said there's something called ultraviolet. Remember now, you got violet light, then they saw color ultraviolet. They were looking at the color black, but they didn't want black classified as light, so they started saying ultraviolet light. And to show that it is light, in technology, this is the kind of light that they use when they use the X-ray machine, the MRI machine, and the black light. We think of this purple light that when you're in the club, they put the that's black light. No, black light is this black substance that you're looking at throughout the universe. That is real black, or what they call cosmic light. There's different variations of it. And it's in what's called the electromagnetic spectrum. So when you look at the color black, you got different variations of black. And the way I kind of explain it is, if you think of karate, you got white belt, the red belt, then you get your purple belt. Then the belt after the purple belt is the black belt. Then you got degrees of the black belt. You got 1st degree black belt, 2nd degree black belt, 3rd degree black belt, 4th degree, all the way to 10 degrees of black belt. That's the same way this black energy is called light. You got the X-ray spectrum, you got the MRI spectrum, you got the gamma ray. All of these are things. They know that it's light. This is what I'm saying. They have been holding back information. They know that this black energy is light, but rather than tell us it was light, because they know this. When people are inspired, they're unstoppable. So what they've been trying to do with black people is make sure that they don't even come into contact with a certain information. Because why? They don't want me and you vibrating at a certain frequency. If you and I get a certain truth that has been taught us all of our life, we wouldn't be on this thing. We be where you using next technology, and we used to vibrate at the frequency where we could time shift and move through different dimensions. That's what they understand, that that's our potential, and they don't want us going back to that, because they know that if we ever get the right information and become what we used to be, this entire universe, because this is Now, this is my position right here on the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
In the book of Genesis, for example, everywhere in the book of Genesis, in the beginning, God did this and God did. I think black people did all of it, and I know they did. I know when they're talking about God created the trees and God created the insects, these were black people who were vibrating at such a high frequency. We were the God, but what it is when we read the that they were showing sun.
Okay, yeah, you went Matrix on me. You know when Neo was I think he had took the red pill, and they showed this liquid going down his throat, and it was making a sound. That's the way you were sounding on that side. It was. I'm telling you, when you get a chance to listen to this outside of what the editor gonna get rid of, it's like the Matrix is the backdrop of this video. You know what I'm saying? The soundtrack, the sound portion of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. But you know what I thought was funny is really time goes extremely fast nowadays. You know,
Oh, yeah.
because we kind of right now we're on like the second thing that I would have talked to you that I was planning on talking to you about. Now I have about 12 to 15 different things to talk about, and we're already passing an hour, and we're just on number 2.
And the thing about it, a lot of this stuff, when it's new information, sometimes I don't like bringing it up because I know it.
Well, look, the AI is working against you anyway right now because it keeps freezing you. But like I said, we go into editing, there's no problem. We'll get rid of everything that's frozen.
Google is a whole thing with this world is they have been trying to keep a certain world intact, and so therefore information that I'm saying you can't Google it. Cause I mean, what I just said about color, for example, if somebody was listening to this, they said, well, there's something called additive and subtractive coloring, which is a lie, and you have then going to prove that that's a lie before you can really go into what I just said. Because most people, additive and subtractive colors, and I used to teach about additive and subtractive coloring because once again, let me say, there's no such thing as color. Color was designed so that we would never really start asking the question, well, what is color? Color is the light that an object has obtained. But once I say color, then you'll never start thinking light. Because then it'll start making you start connecting another dot in your head. So this one has got all the light in it, and this one doesn't have. Once you start one, they something to keep you over here talking about color so that you won't ever make a connection that is light. And because we live in, and I'll say this, I need to say this, we live in a value-based culture. A value-based culture. And whenever you see the value of something, you're going to treat it different. And I go back to what I said earlier. I think it's the responsibility of every race of people to solve their problems. So I believe my assignment is to reestablish value back to a concept that has been demonized. Let me say that again. I believe my purpose is to reestablish value back to a concept that has been demonized. And that for me, as now leads me to why I say white privilege is. White privilege and the black struggle. White privilege is restore virtue and value upon your racial or cultural identity even before you're born. I'm going to say that again. White privilege is having the language that is spoken in a culture, restore virtue and value upon your racial or cultural identity before you're born. The black struggle is overcoming the demonization that the language has bestowed upon your racial or cultural identity. So before you and I are born, they've already defined black to mean wicked, evil. This is not me doing it. I'm just pointing out certain things. Before you and I are born, the language, the culture is already defined what black is. So when they start saying Lewis is a black man and there a brother Yah is a black man, we are now trying to overcome the demonization that somebody else took the liberty to restore upon our particular culture, upon our ethnic and cultural identity. So I started saying, well, what are you going to do about that? What are they, and that leads into another thing, but going back, so it's like going back to white privilege. If you were born under the mascot of gold, for example, or silver, or platinum, just by you being born under that element, you already come with value assigned to you. You follow what I'm saying? And so as you understand that, as I start understand, man, that's what's wrong with black people. Nothing really wrong with us other than somebody has demonized a concept about it. And what it is, they didn't tell the truth. Well, they knew that black was a form of light. And I think once black is reestablished as light, then we're going to start seeing the value in it. And as we start seeing the value, it's going to create this self-love and this self-acceptance, because the basis of all power is unity, but you cannot unify with something that you believe is wicked and evil. So that's what I'm trying to do, is establish black back to light. And as it's established back to light, it's going to create, once again, this embracing of ourselves. Because, once again, when you live in a value-based culture, when you live in a value-based culture, when you see the value of something, you treat it different. You have a different attitude for it. You wouldn't walk by a pound of gold on the street because the culture has assigned a value to it. You wouldn't walk by a $100 bill on the street. Why? Because the culture assigned a value to that piece of paper. But when you see something black and the culture demonize it, and at the speed of light, we see all the negativity that somebody else, this is where the warfare comes in. Somebody else took the liberty to make sure that your grandbaby and great-great-grandbaby will be looked at in a demonized way. And they said, Louis Brown, you ain't gonna do nothing about it. I will determine when this concept is changed. Not because no. And I think that's my part of the neo component, is to reestablish a particular value that we used to know. And that's where, and I think we've talked about this before, where in Thanos, it's time for us to control the the reality ring? Which ring did we have? Yeah,
I think he did have the reality stone.
Yeah, the reality stone. And I think that's what has been out of our hands. And we gave it over to another group to have the reality stone for a season. Then at the full of the time, Neos would be. And they would start taking the reality stone from, and then us establishing the real reality. And there's so much more to talk about on that, because when you understand belief is epigenetics, that's when that goes into another topic. I don't know how long you want this to go, because it's so many components that go along with that.
Well, you know what? Now, this is what I think, right? Like, I think what should happen, if you're willing to do it, is I think you should have like a reoccurring, situation on the podcast where, because you went into so many things already, like I said, and we're already an hour in, each one of those really needs a video by itself. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, because let me tell you what I think may have happened is information overload. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you like I said, when you go into that flow state, but see, I'm used to it. It's kind of like somebody who's been exposed to a certain, let's say, gamma rays, right? I'm used to it. So I can ride with you. But a lot of stuff you've said already, there are people, like you said, who are stuck in the dogma part of religion, and they gotta figure out that part of what you just got through talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got one thing I told somebody this recently is a pastor to me has a really hard job. But since you know how I think, you know that I'm coming at this from a whole nother angle though, right? The reason I'll make it quick, the reason I think a pastor has a really hard job is because a pastor, if he or she is really intelligent, they have to understand that the congregation that's sitting in front of them is fragments of all kind of stuff sitting out there. You may have pedophile, you may have undercover this, you may have criminal that, you may have holier than thou this, you may have I'm better than you, I'm light, you're dark, I'm white, you're black. You may have all of that sitting in front of you, and the message that you're giving as a pastor is going out to them from all of those different lenses. You understand what I'm saying? All of those different lenses are hearing your message, and then they're getting that information in the way that they brain can put it together, where they brain can analyze it, and then they can kind of maybe come back and regurgitate what you said, but it won't be the same because it's so many different personalities sitting out there. And as a pastor, you got to try to have everybody on one accord to some degree, even if it's just to agree what Jesus was or who he was. You know what I'm saying? Because if you got 100 people, you probably got 100 different understandings of this Jesus sitting right in front of you. You know, they may be just little slight nuances, but it's still different. You know, you got a person who may have a learning disorder sitting in front of you. You may have a person who's dyslexic. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, you know, all the, you know, scientific or medical things that go along with somebody dyslexic, but I'm just saying they may understand something different than me. You know, I may get it in one way. So what I'm just saying is you probably have to have like 10-hour videos in order, because you know, this is what I'm saying. The reason why I like Netflix and Prime and all of those different streaming services is they're able to take one subject and break it down, opposed to you going to a movie and you're watching a movie for 2 hours, but a movie trying to, push all this stuff together in an hour and a half or 2 hours, but you don't even know why this person is the way they are. You know what I'm saying? In a movie, he just jump out with a doggone Captain America suit on, running or whatever, you know. But it's a whole history behind before he ever, you know, was introduced to the military or, you know. But so like that's what I like about Netflix. They like with not Black Panther. What is it? Daredevil. That's one of my favorites. Daredevil is my favorite because they get into why he is the way he is, and then you can understand why he would do the things that he's doing. You know, the reasoning behind it. So yeah, brother, you got to come back because first of all, there's a whole nother hour of just questions I would have had to ask, right? Yeah. I mean, because I'm sitting here and I'm taking notes and you know and whatever too, and then like I said,
I appreciate the flex.
Yeah. We know this is should have. Well, it happened when it's supposed to happen. It happened when it was supposed to happen. So it wouldn't have happened no earlier or no later. But we do know that it's time for this information because I'm telling you, man, we got hours and hours worth of conversation just on what you just said. I want to take what you just said, put that in a video, shoot it to you, let you look at it. You tell me what you think. And then I want to come back and then take just a specific subject. And I think I like maybe if we could start from the light perspective, you know, to where you went into ultraviolet light, you know, because I think that is an hour, maybe an hour and a half video in itself, just explaining, you know, the color spectrum, the light spectrum, you know. Man, we didn't even like we never. It's a lot we didn't get into. I'm looking at the, you know, my paperwork, and I'm like, okay, I see pastor, I see philosophy, and dark versus black. I wanted you to break down 666, right? Because you know people's understanding of what that is. Because I hear people like if you run it, like if you were like to get the lottery number 666, a person would be like, ooh, you know, but there's something behind that, right? Like I said, it's a lot, man, and we just can't get to all of it, which makes it. I'm glad of that because now I'm looking forward to the next time we talk, you know. because we can pick up where we left off. But this is what I want to say before I forget it, is because there are going to be people who want to be able to get in touch with you. And I know you're involved in just a bunch of things. Let me say this real quick since it's on my mind. You also talk to me all the time about these different books that you're reading. That's a whole video that I want to do on your book list and go and break it and go because it's extremely interesting, your book list, right? But how can people get in contact with you, either through social media or however you would want somebody to get in contact with you if they, number one, say want more information? Like I said, we didn't even get into.
Well, right now, I've got ways to get in touch, but I want a specific way. So on our next podcast, I'll be able to give that information because I want to direct them to the platform of a dedicated platform. I'll say that.
Gotcha. I got you.
And
okay.
I want to bring them into a dedicated platform where, as well as some of the products that I think will help change reality. But you said something earlier because, like I said, some of the things I said because anytime you're saying something that's different and people start Googling stuff, then we have to show how the Google information or the book information, which has been here for all this time, has created a belief system in what was benefited from that erroneous belief and how detrimental has it been to another group. That's when it takes so much time to really unpack all of this because once again, when I start saying that color is really just a what's the word? I'll say a scapegoat, so that we won't really understand that light is that. It takes time just to undo that because color has been around all this time. Color. You know, so you say, well, who created color? Because once again, they did not want you to understand that what you're looking at is light. There's no such thing really as color, but you can come up with any term and call it something. So when you start saying, okay, this is what I'm looking at when I'm looking at it, color is light, and what makes light color is the energy vibrating. That's something that they don't tell us. They don't tell us that when you're looking at a black object, you're looking at energy that is vibrating, energy that has vibrated. You understand what that would do to the self-esteem of a people who are black, knowing that we are black because we vibrate at the highest frequency? Then that goes back into the essence of what, if you believe in this thing called God. God would have to be black. Why? Because God is the most high vibrating entity that it is, and what we are just derivative or reflections of that. So we're just like the solid state of this energy vibration, but nobody's ever told us that. That information right there alone, you just have to stop for a moment and wait a minute. Let me go what you just said. You're saying that color, what we call color, is the byproduct of the entity that is vibrating. And if God is the most high, I'm not talking about Jesus. You can have Jesus. We can prove mathematically and scientifically that God is black, would have to be black. And black is not just a color. Any being that vibrates at the highest frequency would become black. Even if you are a Caucasian person, if you start vibrating at the highest frequency, you're going to become black and then become invisible just like ultraviolet light. That's it gets so much deeper, you know, because in that same time we got rods and cones in our eyes that used to see in the ultraviolet realm. All of these powers are resting in us right now. But like I say, but it's, you know, once again, when you put something on the surface, much more that you have to give in terms so it can be comprehended in a whole type of understanding. So I'm hitting it here, somebody, once again, because once you start Googling that, Google not going to support what I just said. So I now got to lay all of the background and all of the foreground with other type of ground so that then it becomes not fragmented information that you had. You can now start saying, okay, and then I'm going to tell you something. And when you got this information, you could go to Harvard Law, you go to any of these prestigious universities and arrest all of the lies that they tell you. This information that I'm talking about, once again, they don't have to rewrite books. I mean,
okay.
Oh yeah. Most definitely. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak from the platform, and hopefully, once again, something to say it that would at least people know. So people thinking outside of the box. And what'll happen, you'll start thinking that something is wrong with you because you all your life knew that you were kind of different. You like the mutants on what's that movie? What's that
X-Men?
movie? Where they had that mutant school.
X-Men.
Yeah, we really, it's really some X-Men. Yeah, that's what we are. But once again, you start thinking that world is normal, but really our world is normal, and it's now time for us to establish at least a pathway where we can come together and our X powers. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, well, look, man. Now I'm more looking forward to next time because we had some technical difficulties this time, but that's like I said, that's fine. I understand, the movie industry and all of that's a lot better now that I have to go to editing after this, and my editor is putting together a video that may be 2 hours long and turn it into an hour-long video, minus me moving around and fidgeting in the background. So I get it, so he just tells me, hey, look, let it go, however it goes, I'll take care of it after that. So, brother, I appreciate you. You know that, man. I'm just looking forward to the next time. So you don't be calling you probably as early as Monday saying, hey, man, when can we do this again? Because I don't know if I told you this, but I'm also building out a studio here at my house. So I'm going to have a real studio, where we come in, sit down, like maybe on the couch or however, I'll have it set up. I got a bunch of different ideas from a bunch of different podcasts, the way I want to do it. But, the whole lights, camera, all of it, and it's right here at my house, and then maybe, I was at a place the other day where they rent out office space. And I was thinking about this idea. I saw it on somebody else's podcast. Well, people are now going and they're creating a studio and renting it out for people who do podcasts, having everything there. And you just, come in and pay by the session or by the hour or whatever, and you come and do your thing. You don't have to have no equipment, no nothing. We have the backdrops, the background, green screen, all of that. So that might be what you see from me in the near future.
Your voice is kind of frozen.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, but I'll go back to, I appreciate the opportunity to speak from the platform. And hopefully I said something that the audience can benefit from. And I think we gave, like I said, I think some information was put out where at least we can expound and questions can then come from what was talked about.
You know what I think we ought to do also? We ought to go live one day. Not right now, but sometime soon. So we'll discuss it, okay?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, brother. Well, look, you have a great night, weekend, and I'll be back in touch with you really soon, man. Thank you. If you can hear me, I'm out.